Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson, and this is my review for The Irishman, which is the latest movie from Martin Scorsese, and reunites him with Robert De Niro, who he hasn't worked with in a long time. But in addition to Robert De Niro, this movie also stars Al Pacino and Joe Pesci, and it's pretty much your typical Scorsese gangster movie. The movie actually spans across a couple decades as we follow Robert De Niro's character, who starts to develop a career as a hitman, and he befriends Jimmy Hoffa, who is played by Al Pacino, and I just won't say any more from that. So there's been a lot of hype surrounding this movie because it's a Martin Scorsese movie. He's one of the greatest directors living right now. The fact that he's once again reuniting with Robert De Niro is just great as well, because before Leonardo DiCaprio, De Niro was Scorsese's guy, and you could definitely tell that these two really work well together. Robert De Niro in this movie is fantastic on all accounts because, I mean, he's Robert De Niro. But it's also interesting to see his character go throughout these decades and just see how the character's progressed in terms of being a hitman and starting to develop some complications between his career and his actual family, especially when it comes to one of his daughters. And this movie's also got a lot of attention for using the famous de-aging effect that we've seen for so many Marvel movies. And no, I'm not going to voice my opinion on the Scorsese versus Marvel thing because it's stupid. But anyway, the de-aging effect here they do for De Niro and Pesci is phenomenal. Along with Captain Marvel, this right here is some of the best de-aging effects that you'll ever see in a movie, because it really does look like Robert De Niro from the 80s. It's almost surreal to see him young again in a 2019 movie. And in addition to Robert De Niro, all the other actors in this movie are great. Joe Pesci is great. Al Pacino as Jimmy Hoffa is fantastic as well. And he's sort of a mix of a subtle Al Pacino and the crazy Al Pacino that we get every now and then. And it's pretty entertaining from beginning to end. There's never a moment that I can recall where I was bored, and it can be very funny at points. I honestly didn't expect this movie to be funny in certain aspects. I mean, it's not as funny as, say, The Wolf of Wall Street, but it's definitely more funny than you'd think a Scorsese gangster movie could be. And yeah, a lot of the humor in this movie definitely balanced out some of the drama and some of the more violent, heavy moments. So yeah, the movie's great, and I think it's mostly getting by on Scorsese's direction and the performances from your lead actors. Everyone here really gives it their all. But unfortunately, I can't say it's one of my favorite movies of the year. And there are two elements of this movie that keep it from being one of my favorite movies of the year. The first is Anna Paquin. Anna Paquin appears in this movie as an older version of De Niro's daughter, and at the point in the movie where she comes in, these two characters are having a rocky relationship. And not only is Anna Paquin barely in the movie, but she is about 2 lines of dialogue. And that's it. And it's just a waste of her character, more than in the theatrical version of Days of Future Past, because you have this high-profile actress who is an Academy Award-winning actress, and she's playing a character that's very important to the story, and you only give her 2 lines of dialogue? Really? So that was very disappointing. And the other thing that really keeps this from being one of my favorites of the year is that it's 3.5 hours long. No movie at all should be 3.5 hours. That is way too long. Again, while I was never bored, once we got into that 2.5 hour mark, I was like, okay, this movie needs to wrap up. It's really dragging along now, and I'm starting to look at my watch. Wait a minute, I don't have a watch. Metaphorical watch. And that's kind of the reason why a lot of Scorsese movies don't end up on my best of the year list. Because as amazing of a director he is, and as much as I respect the guy and love his movies, he could make some of my absolute favorite movies of all time if they were shorter. And because this movie is 3.5 hours long, it leads to a very conflicting feeling I have towards this movie, because it's a Netflix movie, so it's gonna end up on Netflix in a couple weeks. And maybe on Netflix it's better to watch because you could just stop after an hour and then continue the movie later on and just watch it for another hour. But this is a Martin Scorsese movie, and you don't watch a Martin Scorsese movie for the first time on Netflix. This is a movie that was made to be seen in theaters. And again, while I think this movie is way too long and should not be 3.5 hours, Much like with Dolomite Is My Name, it's going to be a better experience if you go see this in the theater. So yeah, I'm actually at a crossroad on how to recommend this movie, but regardless of that, I still recommend the movie. It's very well acted, it's expertly directed, it's funny, it's got a great script, and despite that runtime, it's never boring, so I would say it's worth seeing in your lifetime. How exactly you want to see it, whether in theaters or Netflix, is up to you, but yeah, this is one that you shouldn't miss out on, because while it's not one of my favorite movies of the year, it's going to get a lot of Oscar talk. And if this ended up being the very last movie that Scorsese made, I think it's a great movie to go out on. Personally, in a perfect world, I would love to see his final film star both Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio, and then he can just go off and retire. But yeah, this is just a great Scorsese movie in itself. And there you go, that's my review for The Irishman. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment, support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one